Hey, it's Nate from FreeFly. Today I'm going to be giving you an overview of how to set up your Emcent hover map with Astro for autonomous and assisted missions. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take Astro and flip it over. I've already removed the vibration isolator that we use for gimbal payloads, but if you bought a Astro map setup, you'll need to remove that isolator. Just mouse with these holes here and a little safety lanyard, a couple tools, and it comes right off. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the bracket for the hover map. Today I have the ST. The STX has a different bracket that mounts to these two holes and these two in the front. For the ST, I'm just going to be mounting it back here. So I'm going to use a 2.5 mil driver. I'm going to go ahead and torque these bolts down. And just hand tight, it's fine. There's a little rubber grommet in there, and we just want to make sure that we're getting good compression on that. All right, so I'm going to check all of my fasteners are tight and that this is secure. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the adapter cable. So this plugs into the main ZPD cable here on the IO port. Gently press that in until I hear a click. So I'm just going to kind of gently fold it over, and then you can see those two holes line up here. So the next thing I'm going to do is take a M3x6 bolt and go ahead and fasten that down. Now Astro is ready to accept the hover map. But before we put it on Astro, we're going to go ahead and set up some settings on the ST itself for network configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in power to the ST via a V-mount battery, and we'll wait for the hover map to boot up. The hover map has booted when these lights turn to a slow pulsing blue. Okay, so the next step is we're going to add the Emcent Commander repo to Pilot Pro. So if we open up the Updater app, we can see all of the repositories that we're subscribed to. So you can see we have the Pilot Pro app, the FreeFly Updater, and Arterian Mission Control. We're going to go ahead and add another repo, and that's going to get us access to the Commander app. So I'm going to tap on these little dots up here, and I'm going to go to repositories. And you can see all of the ones that we're subscribed to. I want to add a new repository. And it's going to bring up this box for us to fill in on the address of the new repository. We don't have the address yet, and the easiest way to get that is to open up the camera app on the tablet. So if I go here and I search for camera, we're going to open up the camera, and then I have our Astro Wiki pulled up here. So I'm going to scan it and then show options, and I want to copy the link. Then we're going to go back to the FreeFly Updater app, and in the address, I'm going to go ahead and paste that repository. So FreeFly Updater third-party Emcent stable repo. We'll click OK. We don't need to add the fingerprint or anything else. So I'll go ahead and click Save. So now we're subscribed to the Emcent stable repo. And if I go back here and I go ahead and refresh this, if I'm connected to Wi-Fi, I should see that now the Commander app has popped up here. This tablet already has it installed, but in your case, there'll be a little update available, and you can just click that and download the Commander app. The next thing we're going to do is connect this tablet to the hover map over Wi-Fi. So we've got the hover map booted up, flashing blue here. I'm going to swipe down from the top and go to our Wi-Fi settings. And then we're going to wait for the hover map to show up here. So in this case, we've got the ST. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And the default password for the hover map is Hovermap. If you've changed it, then obviously put in the new password. We'll wait a couple seconds for that to connect. And we're now connected without internet. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Commander app, and this will allow us to talk to the hover map.
Connected.
So we see that we're connected here, and we're showing that we can do a non-autonomous mission, but not an assisted mission. This is because we haven't connected the hover map to Astro yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to configure the Ethernet settings on Hovermap. So I'm going to click on this little menu over here, and I'm going to go to the web UI. We'll wait a sec for that to load, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to our network configuration. And so what I'm going to do is under my wired connection settings, I'm going to put in the following parameters. So we're going to put in our address of 192.168.144.101. And the net mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. And then I'm going to leave the DNS and gateway empty and hit apply. And then we're going to go ahead and power off the hover map. Next, we're going to take Hovermap and we're going to go ahead and install it on Astro. So I'm just going to make sure that we're sliding onto the dovetail, and you hear a nice positive click when it slides into place. And then you want to check that it's firmly attached. Then we'll go ahead and plug in the cable on the back of Hovermap. Again, you're listening for that nice positive click that it's secured in place. We'll go ahead and flip Astro over. I'll take off the cover. And with just one battery installed, we're going to go ahead and boot up Astro. Depending on whether or not you've configured your Hovermap to power on with power, it should come on when the batteries come on, or you'll need to turn it on manually. We'll wait for this to turn a flashing blue, and then we'll go back over to Pilot Pro. Okay, so the next step is we've got to configure a couple parameters on Astro. By default, Astro ships ready to work with free flight gimbal payloads, but in our case, the Hovermap is going to require a couple parameter changes. So to do that, we're going to go into advanced mode in AMC. So I'm going to tap the icon up here 7 times, and we'll switch to advanced mode. Then I'm going to go ahead and open up the advanced menu here, and I'm going to go to the parameters page. The first parameter we're going to adjust is the serial baud rate of the external payload connector. So I'm going to type in SER for serial and then underscore. And the parameter we're looking for is serial external to baud rate. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And we want to make sure that it's set to this one right here, the 500,000, 8, and 1. We'll go ahead and click that, and we'll click Save. There may be a pop-up that says you need to reboot the vehicle for this to take effect. Don't worry, we're going to reboot the vehicle in just a few more steps. The next parameter that we're going to change is MAV underscore 2 mode, MAV2 mode, and we're going to set that, it should be by default set to gimbal, we're going to set it to custom. And again, this parameter will require a reboot of Astro. But before we do that, we're going to change one last parameter. So we're going to change RC underscore in. And by default, this is set to RC in, COM RC in mode is set to RC or joystick keep first. We're going to go ahead and change this to the RC transmitter only. Go ahead and click Save. That's turned red. Now we're going to go ahead and reboot everything. So I'm going to go ahead and power off Astro. Hovermap will power off as well. We'll wait a couple seconds.
Communication lost.
We'll power everything back on, and then it'll take a little while. But once the Hovermap lights have turned flashing blue, then we'll jump back over to Pilot Pro. Okay, so now that we've rebooted Astro and Hovermap, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to swipe down from the top of the Pilot Pro tablet, and we're going to turn off Wi-Fi. And this is going to force the Commander app to talk to Hovermap over Ethernet through the radio link, which is the way that we'll be using Hovermap when we're flying it. So I'm going to exit the Auterion Mission Control app, and I'm going to go ahead and open up Commander app. Okay, so I've opened the Commander app, and you can see that I've already established a connection to Hovermap, but if you're not able to, the reason is probably because your Commander app is not looking for the right IP address. So there'll be a little red icon here, and it'll say change IP address, and then you'll want to put in the same IP address that we put in Hovermap, 192.168.144.101. This is also listed in the wiki. Then it should connect after that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through setting up our first assisted or autonomous mission. And the reason I'm going to do that is because when you do that for the first time, it sets parameters on Astro, and then it fails the mission. And I'm going to show you what that process looks like. So we'll go through the inspections here. I'm just going to breeze through these, but you definitely shouldn't. You can see that this is the IP address that we specified earlier. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue on that and continue. And then we'll just go ahead and call this test 1. And we're going to go ahead and hit start scan. And we can see that Hovermap is going to start to spin up here. And it'll go through about a 60-second waiting period, and then it's going to give us an error saying it can't start. So we've just gotten an error saying the robot requires a restart. And the reason for that, as I mentioned earlier, is that we'd set parameters on Astro, but they need a reboot to apply. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the scan, and then we'll wait for that to finish, and we'll reboot Astro and Hovermap. At this point, I'm also going to unfold Astro, and I'm going to plug in both batteries as though we were ready to go for a flight. Okay, so Astro's booted up, so is Hovermap. We're now connected, and we're going to go ahead and start an autonomous mission again. And this time, We shouldn't get the error that we got before because the gains have been set on Astro. It is worth noting that Astro has PID gains or flight control gains that are changed from the stock Astro settings. So if you ever revert your Astro back to flying normal gimbaled payloads, you need to do a full parameter reset on Astro. Directions on how to do that are described in the wiki. In this case, we're ready to start our first autonomous mission, so I'm going to go ahead and start the scan, and we'll wait for Hovermap to do its initial checks. Great, so we'll now hit continue. And you can see we've already mapped the inside of our studio here, and we're collecting more and more points. At this point, Hovermap and Astro are ready to arm and take off. Thanks for watching.